selling with authenticity.
It's building that relationship.
Think about the value.
Because you want to make that impact.
It can make you happier.
Elevate others around
Welcome
us.
to the Selling from the Heart podcast, your home for authentic, effective, and socially integrated sales strategies to help you master the art of selling. Join your co-hosts Larry Levine and Daryl Amy, along with some of the world's best sales thought leaders and practitioners, as we explore ways to help you grow your sales.
Hello, and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Daryl Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
You know, first of all, it's always good to see my dear friend, Daryl Amy. And here we are, we're smack dab in the middle of January already. Can you believe this? The middle of January.
22 is upon us. And you know what's great about today? This is coming out on January 15th, which means we're less than 48 hours away from the 2022 Authentic Selling Challenge. Larry, I'm so excited. It starts on Monday, January 17th, goes all week, and we have got some incredible people joining us that are going to coach us on how to up our game in 2022.
Yeah, you know, I remember last year, we had a blast doing this last year, and I figured let's just do an encore. So we have Jeffrey Gittimer and his wife, Jennifer, kicking this off. We have Heather Monahan. We have Carson Hetty, our near and dear friend, Morgan Ingram's kicking it off, or not kicking it off. He'll be on Thursday. And then we're wrapping up with our near and dear friend, Scott Schilling. We've got quite a lineup there.
It's going to be an incredible week. There'll be a lot of fun. There'll be interaction. It's live every day on the 17th through the 21st, and it's live from 12 to 1 Eastern. That's 9 to 10 if you're on the West Coast. And if you're anywhere else in the world, you can do the math on this. The great thing about it is you can come live, and even if you can't be there every day, go ahead and register, because we got this incredible thing. We're going to record all these, and you can have access to the 2022 Authentic Selling Challenge. And by the way, just as a bonus to get you kicked off well, when you register, we'll also give you access to all of the recordings from last year's Authentic Selling Challenge. We want to do everything we can to make sure that you are set up for the best year ever, hitting your goals and having fulfillment, and doing it with the least amount of stress possible. And that's teeing up our guest today, which, by the way, we've got an incredible conversation coming up with our friend Tim Ohai. But I want you to right now to go to AuthenticSellingChallenge.com, get your spot. Once again, come live 12 to 1 every day, January 17th through 21st. If it so happens that you're listening to this podcast sometime in the future and you go, Larry, Daryl, it's not January of 2022 anymore. Good news is we recorded all this as well, so you can get access to this content. We want to invest, and we've got some incredible coaches that are going to invest in each one of us to make sure that this is the most successful year ever. And Larry, I'm so excited about this year. I'm excited about all that's ahead, and I'm excited about our conversation today, because I think we're going to hit on a topic that is really crucial for every sales professional and sales leader out there. So why don't you introduce our friend Tim Ohai, and let's dive in.
I can't wait to introduce Tim Ohai. But first of all, I think it's a topic, just to ping on what you just said. It's a topic I don't think we've ever discussed on the Selling from the Heart podcast. So I'm super excited. I've enjoyed over the years building a really deep friendship with Tim Ohai, one of the classiest guys I know. We've had great professional conversation, really in-depth personal conversations. You know, Tim's the global sales effectiveness leader at Workday. He's the founder of the Ubuntu mission. I think I pronounced that right.
You did, good,
Tim. Yeah, he's one of the classiest guys I know. I love this guy, Tim Ohai. Welcome to Selling from the Heart podcast.
Hey, aloha, gang. It's so good to be here. Thank you so much.
We're going to have a great conversation today. But you know the question that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers, because you're a repeat guest. So I'm curious on this encore showing here, Tim, what does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
So I'm going to repeat at a high level what so many have said, and it's the idea that if you're not serving, you're not selling. So selling from the heart comes from that place of having a servant mindset. It's about being authentic. But if I were to add something new, something extra this time, I'd add two things. One, first and foremost, if you're selling from the heart, you're making it about the other person You're making it about yeah, I don't even hate to use the word buyer, the human being you're trying to work with. And number one, you want to help them increase their confidence that they're making the right decision. Whether they choose you or somebody else or whatever, you're serving them by helping build their increase. And this taps into some of the work from like groups like Gartner and some really great research that they've got. But bottom line is, I need to be investing in their confidence that they're doing the right thing and helping them figure that out, which leads to number two, I got to help them make sense of the whole thing. I got to help them navigate the complexity and, more importantly, educate them on disruption and risk and help them know, hey, this potentially could be out there. So if I'm doing this right, I'm not just creating a connection. I'm creating trust. I'm creating credibility as an outcome of authenticity, as an outcome of serving. It's not just neck down, it's neck up.
Oh, Tim, that is so good. And I want to tie in something because I like how you brought this up. To me, selling from the heart, if we encapsulate all this and we layer in something to this, is even if you're not the right fit, you can educate them. You can help them, become better at what they're doing. And if for some reason at the end of this, you're not the right fit, then help them find the right fit. And all too often, we don't do that in sales. And, people can sense it. People sense it immediately.
And I can tell you from my own experience in selling that those conversations will come back to you 1, 2, 3 years later. And that becomes, so it's a wild way to say it, but it's a great way to prospect because you're going to play your pipeline of the future because your relationship is based off of, like I said, trust. And not just simply, can I get a commission out of this?
Beautiful.
And hey, Daryl, and it just reminds me, and it's why I'm a firm believer, if you want to have a full sales funnel, you need to build a full relationship funnel.
Yeah. And how many people in that funnel would give you a 10 out of 10 on the trust score, right? And the more of those people we have, the more we're going to succeed in the future. Well, Tim, we're at the beginning of a very interesting year. It's all the years now are interesting. It seems like, insert whatever adjective of, interesting. We'll just call it that for now. And I'm curious, as we just set up our conversation today, as you look forward into 2022, what are you seeing in terms of sales enablement trends? What should be top of mind right now when you think of sales enablement?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. First and foremost, if people don't recognize that their customer's journey has changed, they're behind the scenes. So the customers, and it's constantly evolving, not just because of COVID, just because of technology, a variety of other factors. But that means that how do you design backward from there? And one of the things we're working on hard is how do you tie in data from those interactions and those touch points. So we're trying to bring in and correlations between not just activity, but skill set and customer sentiment and response and triangulate from there. So I think there's going to be a bigger rise in data-driven stuff. The key is it's got to go back into how you serve those customer journeys, not how you count and stack. And I think there are too many folks who may not have sold before or in a position where they haven't sold in a long time and they forget, they lose a little bit of empathy for how hard it is to be in the trenches. So if you have good data and you validate it with your field, you could actually come much, much closer to the customer. The other big thing I see is there's going to be there is already a massive shift in hiring and people quitting and joining other companies. And so our definition of onboarding has got to evolve. And I'm old school. I remember IBM, they would give you like a year,
right.
And you seriously go to this academy, have this assignment, all stuff. And then at the end of it, they said, you are now going to move to Minnesota. And, so I don't think we're going to be that draconian, but we have to think it's a year journey for people to ramp up. It's not just go to onboarding. Here's your number, go hit it. There's got to be much more because the complexity of what people have to know and do and navigate is far more than what people expected. And I see that becoming a big emphasis. From a technology point of view, we should see more AI stepping in, at least machine learning stepping in. And that's going to be interesting because you're going to have to be more intimate with your customer if you want your AI to actually have meaning, because you've got to have their input to feed into it, not just your AI from your data, from your CRM, et cetera. And I'll be curious to see how that opens up. And then clearly from a content point of view, I'm expecting a lot more emphasis, hopefully, on the integration between sales and marketing.
Mhm.
And I won't say his name because it was a really good conversation, but I hugely respect this guy. He's a marketing expert, and he and I were talking, and he goes, yeah, there's still too many marketing communications people, too many marcom people in marketing, and they don't understand sales at all. And that has to be blown up and ripped up in a way that we erase and replace that relationship with something really healthy and vibrant that ties back into that new customer journey.
Mhm.
Those are the big trends that I see.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? The first word as I was listening to what you're saying, Tim, is change. And if we look at the last couple years, there has been monumental compression of all of this change happening. And I think, some of this would eventually hit, maybe not all up front as it has the last couple years. And when all this change occurs, which is a great segue into the breadth of our conversation today, all this change leads to stress and it leads to uneasiness because we're asked to do things that maybe we weren't prepared for at this very moment in time.
Oh, it's massive. It's surging. I mean, we're seeing it within our own leaders. They're feeling it. I spent a lot of time with our sales leaders all the way down to frontline managers and even spend time with individual AEs. I see it outside of our industry. I see it in churches. I know people who work in government. I know people who work in schools. I got a buddy who's a vice principal at a school, and the stress, and it's not just the stress, it's the weariness that goes with it. It's the fragility that goes with it. It's people are brittle right now. You can literally puff a small bit of air on someone, and they'll feel it, and they'll everybody's maxed out.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually what thankfully, I usually get on these things. We talk sales enablement, all that stuff. But I was so glad you guys said, hey, can we talk about stress? Because that's my passion. I mean, I do have a master's in psychology. So it's like, I care about this stuff. Have cared about it for a while. And the thing I'm noticing is two things. One, a lot of what people are being told how to handle their stress, go for a walk, get outside and whatnot. That's not a solution. It's not. Because while they're outside, their head is still spinning, and they go to
guilty,
bed.
Tim. I'm guilty.
At night because they can't turn their brains off.
Right.
And so the problem is not about exercising more, although exercise is great. It's not about going out and getting in nature, which is phenomenal. And I would say you need to do that, but that's not the solution to the problem. The problem is what's going on in the head and in the heart. And one of the things we talk about with Ubuntu, and Ubuntu has been a place for us to bring that up because we teach entrepreneurial and leadership skills in Africa and disadvantaged communities. We started in South Africa, then Ghana, and now we're starting to look at going to Kenya, although COVID is making this really hard. But with that said, we talk about what's going on here and what's going on here in the head and the heart. That is the number one obstacle to success. That's the number one reason that businesses fail. And so the number one trigger for bad decision making is stress. And we find that the most common causes are three things: the desire for success, the desire for significance, and the desire for control. Success, significance, and control. And if you want to test how strong those desires are in your life, which fear grips you more? You're going to fail, you're going to be rejected, or you're going to lose control. One of those is going to have a button. Maybe all three of those has a button. And a lot of conversations I'm having now are with people who have all three buttons, and they're like, this is crazy. And the problem with those issues or those topics is that my fear of failure will create an addiction for success, which will only make my fear of failure bigger and stronger and deeper. And going for a walk and working out isn't going to change my addiction because it's biochemical. It's in my head. And I have to change how I see the universe, how I see everything. So it's not a success, fail, significance, rejection, or control and risk. It's got to be a different mindset altogether. But I've said a lot. Let me just pause and take a breath and have a sip of tea.
So I'm listening to all of this, and first of all, I'm like, where's the couch? Where do we go sit down? But if you think about the profession of sales that we all know and love, I mean, those 3 buttons, fear of
Huge.
failure, fear of rejection. Oh my gosh. We signed
Yeah,
up for a
all
career
three
where
of
we
them
get
get hit.
rejection, and fear of loss and control. Those have always been present in sales. I think sales has always been stressful, but you add on what we've gone through in the trauma of the last 18 months, in the middle of all of that. I see the screws have been tightened in each one of those areas in a profession where we were probably going into this already, on the stress scale, probably peaking above a lot of other careers. And now we've got sales teams that are, like you said, that it's fragile. It's a very important moment. What do we do if we can't? It's got to be more than going for a walk and working out. What do we do?
It's interesting. So there's 2 things. Again, I know you want to talk about 2 things at a time. Interesting. There's 2 things. So on one hand, there's first self-awareness, and if you don't have the self-awareness of those, and I'll call them out, addiction. They operate the same way biochemically in your brain as an addiction to a drug or something else. You're behaviorally hooked, and I'm learning now. You're actually the neurons, the synaptic connections in your head are so heavily reinforced with the fatty tissue, your gray matter. It's so dense that you just can't sit and listen to a podcast and go, oh, wow, and then go change your behavior. You actually have to change your brain. There's stuff you can do about that. I'll get that in a second. But first and foremost, if you're not even aware that you have a problem, you are going to not only be stressed at work, you're going to take it home. You're going to take it out on your family. You're going to take it out on your friends. I mean, how many people have lost friendships over the last year and a half, 2 years, and they've just dropped all connections, social media, they've dropped all connection through anything. So even as they started to re-socialize, I don't have those connections in my life. I can't handle anything that touch it. And you'd be amazed how much the stress is affecting your ability to relate to people who have a different opinion, a different point of view. And we've lost some of that. And until you're aware that there's a problem exists, you can't address it. And then the second thing, what do you do? So I'm going to give 3 words that are my own aha moment. It was deep because I'll tell a story in a second to show you how deep it went. But I didn't realize, because I wasn't raised this way. But instead of pursuing success and playing the game between success and failure, the focus needs to be on confidence. Am I doing my best? If I'm doing my best, that's all I can do. My nephew plays pro rugby in France, and I get to hang out with different professional athletes and have conversations and whatnot. And the top athletes all have the same mindset. I'm going to do my best, win or lose. It's not about winning. I hate losing, but it's not about winning or losing. It's about doing my best. I'm confident that when I step on the pitch, when I step on the court or the field or whatever, or musicians step on stage, whatever, I'm just going to do my best. And if I'm confident that I'm doing my best, then I don't succumb to success or failure. That's secondary. That's not even part of the picture. Instead of then significance versus rejection, I need to be focused on acceptance. Do I accept myself? And from that place, can I accept you? And if I can accept myself, it doesn't matter if other people accept me or not, because I accept who I am. And then lastly, instead of control versus risk, it's trust. Do I trust that I'll figure it out? Do I trust that I can get through this, whether I have control or not? When my wife got leukemia, man, that was ripped apart in my universe. And my sense of control that I thought I could, no way, you can't do anything. So I had to learn how to trust that my wife and I and my kids, we would get through it. We had no idea how.
Yeah.
And eventually, unfortunately, she passed away, and we're in that place now. But I trust we'll figure it out. We'll figure out what it means to be alone. We'll figure out what it means to not have mom at Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever. But if you don't understand it, if you're gonna go right back to the addiction. I've got to control this. I've got to figure it out because this is all the unknowns and all the uncertainty. You'll spin out and you'll stay in a state of stress you can't move out of. And so it's those paradigms. And here's the challenge for those of you with parents. I'll throw this out. So this is where it really hit home for me. When I had this epiphany, my son is 21. my daughter's 19, but my 21-year-old and I had a conversation, and he's at that age where we're starting to have really adult conversations, man to man. It's delightful. It's like, wow, this is cool, but it's also tough because he knows he could be very transparent and honest. And I invite that. So I said, hey, I realize this thing about success versus confidence. And let me ask you, did I raise you to be successful, or did I raise you to be confident? And he goes, Dad, you raised me to be successful. Matter of fact, Dad, you get so stressed at my jiu-jitsu tournaments. If I failed, he goes, I didn't like you coming when I was younger because you'd get so stressed at the tournament of whether I was going to get a medal or not. And thankfully, jiu-jitsu has taught him how to be more confident. So it's not about the medal. It's not about the belt. It's not about, even though he's pretty kick-ass, it totally transcends the game. I was like, oh, and I'm sorry. And I actually, literally, I'm sorry, I apologize, and I promise I'll do better for you and your kids. And then second question, did I raise you to be, to accept yourself, or did I raise you to be, significant? And he goes, you said one thing, but you did another. It wasn't super clear.
Yeah.
Okay, there's, oh man, hey,
the control. And he's like, well, control, you weren't so bad, but mom was the one. She hovered over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, if she was here, she would apologize. But I tell you the same thing. I'm sorry. We'll do better. Mm-hmm. But this gets into how we were raised. And this goes back to point one on self-awareness. Mm-hmm. You really got to do some, this is the couch. I'm on the couch. You can join me, Daryl. It's big. And I'm cuddly. But the bottom line is, if you're not aware of your behavior now, you can't do anything. But if you're aware of your behavior now, you're going to have to go look back on how you got to where you are. Mm-hmm. And it started when you're young. And I hate to sound cliche, but you've got to do the work.
Yeah. And it's so true, because we're a big believer, Tim, the inner work fuels everything that we do, all the outer success that we're going to have. But as I was listening to what you're saying, and I just got to go back and tie this into a sales centric moment just for a second, because there's some words that I think are just near and dear to me. Is success, the confidence, and the acceptance. So let's tie all three of those in for a moment, because I'd love your take on this. Trust as well.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Oh, I was going to say success. I'm trying to push success, but I'm sorry, I'm interrupted.
No, it's all good. But think about how that wreaks havoc on salespeople every single month. When you have that salesperson goes, I'm doing my best. In my heart, I believe I'm doing the best. I'm confident at what I do. But then I look at the stack rankings, and all of a sudden I might get squashed down. Now just think of how that plays havoc and the stress that puts on salespeople month in and month out, quarter in and quarter out. Yeah. And, I know you're seeing it, but I love this conversation because we've all gone through it. Coach us some more on how does somebody become self-aware of this, right? If they sense it, right? If they sense it and smell it, what paths can they take themselves down to really pull this out of themselves?
So you're talking about something that's literally embedded into our system. Mm-hmm. So the way business works is not driven to encourage our best versions of ourselves. The way business works is to encourage and hopefully squeeze out the best results for stakeholders. Mm-hmm. And let's go back to the most fundamental, most important relationship in sales, and that's between the player and their coach. And I'll say over and over again, the number one enablement you can do for any seller is give them a great leader. And let's go that first. So maybe I have self-awareness, maybe I'm there, but if my manager is not on the same page, I have a different path ahead of me. I'm in a completely different ocean, and it's not a good one. So I can be working on my confidence, my acceptance, and my trust. But if my manager's in my ear and she's saying need to be successful, significant, and in control, I'm screwed, because we're not shooting for the same outcome. Now, what's fascinating is when you look at the best coaches in the world of any sport, business coaches, conductors, whatever, they want to build confidence, acceptance, and trust out of their team and then they know when they've tapped into that, they release championship play. So somehow Our system keeps teaching managers success, significance, and control when we should be saying, hey, let me open up a different way to do it. And it's like Tony Dungy, one of my favorite all-time leaders. He's an amazing human being. I had the chance to sit with him on a flight once from the East Coast to the West Coast, and had short chat because he was getting ready to go call a game in San Francisco, and he needed to rest, and I get it. But he was so kind. I asked him, what's it like when you work for some Chuck Knoll, Marty Schottenheimer. He worked for some tough old school coaches, and he's not a yeller. He's not a screamer. He's not one of these guys who's going to go whatever. And I said, how did you do it? And he said, I basically just said to them, let me do it my way. And if I don't deliver the results, then you can either fire me or I'll do it your way.
Mm-hmm.
And he created that space. So for any manager that's listening, you may feel like you don't have the freedom to do this. You are the linchpin here. If you want your sellers to be authentic, if you want them to have the ability to reach out and connect with people in a completely different way, you are the root cause solution.
Mm.
And Larry, we've talked a lot about
I know.
Our team, it's the manager's relationship with the player that's most important, not the player with the customer.
Yeah, but hey, Daryl, just real quick, because I know you want to chime in, but I want to continue this really quick, because what happens if you're that leader whose leader may not see eye to eye with you on that? Then what happens? Because in my opinion, that's a catch-22.
Yeah,
it really is.
But now this is a leader's paradox that will always exist. It's always existed, continuing to exist. You will always have a leader at some point in your career who doesn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
You always have a leader who's just not. And I've always seen the people who have been great, regardless of frontline all the way up to VP level and above, have done it their way regardless. And they have that conversation, and they just manage it accordingly. Yeah. And this is a tale as old as time. This is just, it's gone on it will continue because we're not going to change. So as a leader, you just have to make a commitment in your heart. I will do what I need to do in the meeting. And when it comes to me with my people, I'm going to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to treat them differently. And how many times have you heard a sales leader say, it's my job to filter things from hitting the field?
Mm-hmm.
This is part of that. Yeah. But usually we think about the emails and the requests for last minute information. And I'm going to add this whole other mindset piece, that if you don't filter the mindset, not just the activities, but if you don't filter the mindset that's coming down from the top that shouldn't be passed on to your team, you're not being a complete leader.
Thinking about two books I'm actually reading, so relevant. Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. She was telling a story right at the beginning of that book about a top Navy, and they were doing target practice basically, and under one leader, they failed everything. They got a multiplier in, and their team performed the best in the Navy. It had nothing to do with the sales rep. It had everything to do with the leader. And I think this, right now, and I think the sales culture that leaders create when we're working with teams and creating, trust building, in trust enablement, and helping their salespeople build trust, it has to happen inside an authentic sales culture. Yeah. Otherwise, all the training in the world isn't going to work. I believe that firmly. The other book that has that I'm reading right now that just plays along so well for salespeople is Simon Sinek's Infinite Game, where he says, look, this is an infinite game. This is not, and in sales, we think it's a finite game where we're going to hit our quota, this month or this quarter, or this year. The reality is this game keeps going on. And so confidence is, more important than success. And I love your paradigm here. I think this is something we're going to be talking about for a long time right now. As we wrap up today, Tim, what a phenomenal conversation.
Amazing conversation.
What words of encouragement would you give for sales professionals and sales leaders as they're thinking, wow, I do need to dive into some of this stuff?
Well, first and foremost, you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to this podcast, you feel like, man, I am so stressed, and what I've heard today, it actually makes me feel more stressed. You're not alone.
You're not.
There are so many people, and it's a human. I mean, I literally, before I got on the call right now, I got a text from one of my people in South Africa, and they're stressed. It's international. It's everybody's feeling it. So you're not alone. And because you're not alone, that means you're fighting a big battle. So recognize the size of it. It's big. It is big. And culturally, we've got some changes to make. This is where I go back to the story of the boy rescuing, starfish on the beach. The old story, walking to the beach and he's chucking starfish, and the dude walks up and says, "Why are you throwing? There's thousands of starfish on this beach. Why are you trying to throw them in? They're all going to die." And he goes, "Well, it doesn't matter. This one is going to live." And he throws this, and so you just start with self-awareness. Figure out, where are your buttons? Are you afraid of failing? Are you afraid of being rejected? Are you afraid of losing control? Start with the biggest button and just be aware. Look for your reactions. Oh, okay, you know what? I'm freaking out about failing right now. How do I turn this from a success conversation to a confidence one? I'm doing my best. And secondly, get somebody in the boat with you. Don't paddle. Don't paddle. Either pull in a friend who's the same thing, pull in your life mate, whoever, pull in your manager. And make your manager listen to the podcast if they're not already subscribed, and have the dialogue and say, this is what I want to work on, and pull somebody along with you. Because there's an old saying we have in Africa around, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with others.
Yeah.
So good. Tim, thank you. What a gift today. And I just want to say, I so appreciate this conversation. I think this is very, very timely. I feel it. We all feel it. And what you've given us today is a true gift. Thanks for coming back on the podcast. We appreciate you, man.
It's always good seeing Tim Ohai.
Oh, yeah. And Larry, you and I need cigars soon. Just saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Daryl.
I'm feeling this sense of rejection. It's adding.
There's West Coast, and then there's Arkansas. So
that's right. That's good. Hey, I'll be out there soon. Hey, it's been fun, Tim. Thanks so much, and best wishes for an incredible year this year. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, you're awesome. Thank you.
Always fun hanging out with Ohai, and what a powerful conversation. Larry, there's so much to unpack here, and I have a sense that we're going to be unpacking this for a while. But if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with a group. And I couldn't help but think that there are people listening in that say, I resonate with that, but that ain't going to happen in my company, not in my sales bullpen. And I go, I get that. Sales can be a tough gig sometimes. And that's one of the reasons why at the beginning of 2020, we put together the Selling from the Heart Insiders Group. So you could have a group of like-hearted sales professionals. There's a bunch of sales leaders in there as well. And I have a feeling we're going to be doing more with sales leaders in the year to come. But the idea behind this is, can we get together consistently and build friendships with like-hearted sales professionals so we can start to process through some of this stuff? And you don't have to do this alone. And I think what Tim was saying, Larry, that resonated with me is certainly during the trauma of the last 18 months and all that we've gone through, each one of those three areas, the screws just keep getting tightened. And there's this temptation to isolate. And I just want to say, if you're listening in and you don't have friends in sales, you got friends in your regular life that you hang out with. That's great. But there are some unique things in this sales profession. You need good friends in sales. If you don't have friends, come join us in the Insiders Group. And I guarantee you're going to find some friends in that group that will be an encouragement to you. And I think together we can start to process through some of this stress and set a better course going forward.
Yeah, no, I'm a firm believer. I love what Tim said about the alignment of the mind, right? The head and the heart. And so often we've left the heart out of a lot of things that we do. And it's about time that we blend those both together. And it's why, Daryl, I'm a firm believer, especially at a leadership level, is those leaders who understand what it means to lead with the heart will
Mhm.
develop a team that goes out and sells from the heart.
That's right.
I'm a firm believer in it. And just one last, note on the insiders group, it's about community. And if you don't have that, come hang out with us. But I encourage you, find a community and bring people
That's right.
together and start talking about some of these things and create accountability partners. Some of the best things. And I love one last thing that Tim brought up was this self-awareness. Because you and I, Daryl, we get into some deep conversations about that. Just you
Mhm.
and I. And I think this is the time, and it's okay to go down some of those paths. I went down at most of 2021 is
And
going down that path. And you and I've had conversations about it. This is what we need to do to get through the other side.
That's right. Well, this is important work. We're going to keep talking about all of this. If you're interested in finding that group of like-hearted sales professionals, go to sellingfromtheheart.net/insiders. You can learn more about that. And starting on Monday, the 2022 Authentic Selling Challenge, this will certainly be a great catalyst to put you around some people who are like-hearted in the selling profession. Authenticity is on full display here. This is going to be a fantastic week. And I think one of the keys to what Tim is talking about is to just get real with yourself, get honest. And the Authentic Selling Challenge is going to be a great catalyst in that direction. So we look forward to seeing you there. January 17th through 21st, 12 to 1 Eastern time. That's 9 to 10 on the West Coast. Every day. If you can't show up live, just sign up anyways. We'll get you the recording. And once again, if you're listening long into the future, we captured all of this. It's out there in cyberspace. Just go to AuthenticSellingChallenge.com and register, and you'll get access to the recording. Well, Larry, I am excited about this new year. I'm excited about the Selling from the Heart movement, this movement of authenticity in the sales profession. And I just want to say, until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep adding real value, deal with stress. It's a big deal. And most of all,